bad rep. We think the way it works is that because we do things because something happened in the world. A long time ago, the building burned down, and I gotta fast. That's not how it works. I'm a Jew, right? It's tradition, it's custom. Why? Not sure. That's wrong. It's not true. There's nothing that we do. Is that God has this amazing world. And nestled in the physical world where we see it is spirituality. And in that world is something electricity. That if we can tap into that electricity now, we become different people. My son who's here in Canada, he's a kid. I'll never forget that Dad can explain to me voltage. How does voltage work? I said, here's how it works. You have an outlet. If you plug your charger into the outlet, your things, your iPod's going to turn on. If I go to Yankee Stadium, you get all the lights, and I put it into that same outlet, it's not turning on. Why? There's electricity, but there isn't enough voltage. Voltage is when the voltage is turned on. And the way it works in Jewish history, Jewish calendar, is that every period of time has a certain amount of electricity, spiritual energy, to make us awesome. The goal of Judaism is to be awesome, not because God needs something. God's cool. The beauty about being the creator of the universe is you don't need stuff. You definitely don't need a bunch of like orthodox robots like faking it through to make you happy. He's totally cool. He doesn't have a complex. If he's having us do stuff, it's because we're his nation and he wants us to tap into an energy. This period of time has amazing energy. The Siva Shalom says that the 3 weeks are holy and the 3 are going. Because the 3 are going, remind you of existence.
A Jew never says, I can't. Because if we said I can't, when they took my grandparents, they put them through the Holocaust. When we came on the shores of America, we'd say, we're done. Look at this place. We are 2 generations from gas chambers. How in the world, in 2 generations, from literally having some Nazi saying it's all over, how is it possible that we have this nation? We're 12 hours from the Kotel. We are one of 100 camps. Hundreds of schools. How? Because a bunch of Jews got to the shores and said, I'm not saying you can't. And they're like, you can't. They go, why can't you? Tisha B'Av is for the people that say, I can't. And your goal in life, no matter what you do, in school, with your friends, with your Judaism, the greatest challenge you're going to face is a bunch of Jewish kids that look over at a tough religion and go, I can't, I'm out. And then they become ortho robots. You see them in like 12th grade, they're like nothing inside, just robots. Because it's a little hard to get Judaism. I'm out. I can't.
I can't cover it. Like, thanks so much. Thanks for the phone call. I can't cover it. He goes, listen, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't a big favor. I don't want to lose this guy. We came close with him for a couple of years. I'm going to Israel for a few weeks. I need you to cover for me. I said, okay, where is it? He said, it's in Lower Manhattan. I said, I am not. I'm from Long Island. Like, you're not LIR. No, I'm from Lower Manhattan. So he goes, listen, this guy doesn't really play sports, so he goes, listen. He says, do you like basketball? I said, yeah, I like basketball. He goes, this guy is a basketball player. I'm like, wait, who's like a YU basketball player? Like, yeah, like the guy who's like good, like Flatbush, like against NTA, like in 1980, like, yeah, I got it. Like, we don't play basketball, we're Jews, you know what I'm saying? Like, we may be the doctors for the basketball team, but even though we pretend, she believes, like, we can play ball, like, you think if you play She League ball and you're like 5'8", like you're like a power forward, then you play against the public school, like in practice, they're like, really, you broke the actuaries, then you guys don't play ball. We're Jews, we do a lot of stuff. And we didn't play ball, until we play like real people. So I said, no, he's a real basketball player. I'm like, okay, what's his name? He goes, I don't know if you've heard of him, he plays for the New York Knicks. His name is Amari Stoudemire. I'm like, you want me to go learn with Amari Stoudemire? He said, yeah, I'm like, okay, fine. Because I'm such a good friend. He's like, I owe you one big time. I'm like, you owe me big time. Fine, I'll go to Amari Stoudemire's house and learn with him, whatever. Next thing you ask him, like, to play ball with him or something. So, I go to J Street, Lower Manhattan, and I go to the most beautiful apartment that's the size of this room that's overlooking. I don't know how much water is in Manhattan. He looks at all the water. And I see the most interesting house ever. Harary, who is huge, 7 feet I'm like, what's up, Harary? He's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, I need like a step stool to get him talking. And like, you see a picture of him, and like, I see his tube on the wall. He's got like a magnet, he's got a Star of David tattoo right between his fingers. So he sits down, he's like, yo, Rabbi wasn't around. He said, like, we can talk, The Harary's really big in spirituality. He holds that he's part of the B'nai Yisrael. But he's not B'nai Yaakov, he holds not B'nai Yisrael, he's part of the B'nai Menashe. He's an amazing guy, very spiritual. So we start talking. I'm like in heaven. And we developed a relationship, and I get to see him every once in a while. I just recently was over the house, maybe 2 weeks ago. Maybe once every 2 months I go back in. And every 2 months that I go back in, I meet one of his people or whatever, we're doing something together, and then I go talk to him for a few minutes, and I show him an idea that he likes to hear about that comes from the Torah, because he believes in what we believe it or not. So this is a period of time that I love very much, because I believe in my heart that if you want to be great, you have to tap into the greatest in the Torah, and if God is putting spirituality today, He's doing it this period of time. He's giving us what we need to get there to by us. So I share with him an idea from this period of time. That's what I'll tell you about. I'm like, Mark, what do you think about this? Does this work for you? He's like, this is exactly, when I finish this, this is exactly what I think about. Maybe 5 times a week when I go play ball. I'm like, perfect, maybe it'll work when I can't get it. I'll show you one. One of the most strangest things that we have in Torah is this whole story of how this whole 3 week thing started. The whole idea of the 3 weeks really began well before based on the fish. Can you hear me if I speak without the mic?
Yeah.
Mic's holding me back. This whole 3 weeks thing starts way, way, way before the base on the fish. It starts in the desert. And you remember the story, but you have to get into the story for 5 minutes to fully appreciate what's really going on. Jews are ready to go. They're primed, they're prepped, they walk out of Egypt, they have 10 plagues, they walk through a sea. God totally razzle-dazzles them, they get the Torah, they're in the desert, they're poised and ready to conquer Israel and live happily ever after. As they walk in, they're getting a little nervous. They're like, I can't believe it. As they got to by the banks of the river, and they look up to God, they're like, God, man, I cannot wait to see what you're going to do to what's going on in Canaan. You knocked them out of the park in Mitzrayim. I can't wait for what plagues you have. And God goes, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get the memo? You're actually fighting this war. They're like, I'm sorry, like, we don't speak Hebrew. I'm like, what are you kidding me? Like, we're not going to fight over Jews. Like, we have talents. We heal, we sue, we negotiate, we eat. Tell you what we don't do is fight. You're never going to find a bunch of guys come out of a bar and be like, yeah. The yeshiva just let out. Let's cross the street and get weird. Ever. No one's scared of us. They're like, we have to fight in time. And Moshe goes, no, it's cool. God's with you. You'll be fine. And it's just like, before we go in there, we got to send in spies. Remember the story? Spies go in, spies come out. Spies say, we're going to die. And the Jews start to cry. And that night God goes, you cried for this? You're going to cry forever. Remember the story? I remember one time I was giving this speech in NCSY, Detroit, Michigan. Now, I'm from Brooklyn, but there are cities that I do not mess with. Top of that list, Detroit. I'll never forget, it was summertime. It was a classroom of public school kids, and a kid sitting literally 12 o'clock from me. Leather jacket, jeans, toughest kid, looked like Eminem. Staring right at me with like a little baseball cap on me. He goes, I tell him the story, Jews walk in, he starts to cry. God goes, you cried for this, you're going to cry forever. He raised his hand and goes, Rabbi? I said, I didn't know this was a question and answer period, but yes, Eminem, what can I help you with? He said, that never happened. I'm like, okay, fine, see you guys later. I'm here from Detroit. I'm out of here, I'll catch the next flight home. He goes, I'm like, okay, Rabbi, what do you mean? He goes, that story you just told, Jews about to go into Israel, and then they cried, and God, they cried, and God said, you cried for this, you're going to cry forever. Never happened. I'm like, how do you know? He goes, listen, I don't know anything about Judaism, but what I do know is that God is merciful. You cried for nothing, you're going to cry forever. Doesn't sound merciful to me. That sounds like my dad. I'm like, whoa, okay. Too much information, Mr. Eminem, and I'm leaving. Is that a great question from my buddy from Detroit? We all can hear the story a million times. This is the 3 weeks. This is where it starts. We're all fasting because we're prepping ourselves for the big day where we're going to sit on the floor for 25 hours and tell ourselves that ultimately the nation of Israel was destroyed because a long, long, long time ago, the Jews were about to go into a conquer a country and they got scared. They got scared because they're human beings. And they never fought before because they were slaves and they're Jews. Until the Israeli army, they never fought at all. And they go to God and they're like, I am scared. And God goes, excuse me? What did you say? You're scared? Okay. Really? You messed with the wrong guy. You're crying? You're crying now? You know what? Come here. Come here. You're going to cry for, I'm going to burn your buildings. I'm going to kill your people. You're going to sit on the floor in 2014 in Kaylie. Don't you ever cry in front of me again. That's Kel Rachum V'chani. That's Erech Apayim. Really? That's God, the merciful Father. How in the world is that merciful? What was it the Jews did wrong? So I want to tell you a story. This is Robert's in the room. Robert's heard the story before, once or twice. I'm going to tell you the story. Sometimes in life you get a story that reminds you about life. I work for a company called RXR. RXR is a real estate company I worked for many years. And once, I'll never forget one time I did these videos for Asian called short videos for Rabbi mentioned. And it was Erev Rosh Hashanah one time, I'll never forget. And I was working on a deal, and one of the lawyers was subscribed. He was a secular guy, I didn't know that, he was Jewish. He was subscribed to Asia. So we're working on a deal together, and he gets an alert. New video for Rosh Hashanah, like Charlie Harary. He's like, but that the same? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I clicked it. He clicks it, and he plays it. He's like, are you a rabbi too? I'm like, no, I'm not really a rabbi. He's like totally confused. I said, no, I did this on the side. He goes, amazing. He liked it. He said, I'm going to send it out to some of my friends. He, by mistake, sent it to the entire company. On Rosh Hashanah. So the whole company for 5 minutes was watching, like, most of them weren't Jewish, like, Cole Midway dropped his eggs. So it became a very uncomfortable situation for 2 minutes, but what ended up happening was, over time, people started coming in, like, asking me questions, like, by the way, I was born Jewish, I don't know anything about Judaism, can I talk to you? And it turned into, like, a whole thing that people want to know about their Judaism. I said, here's the story. I can't answer questions all day. Every month, what we're going to do is have an open Q&A. We go downstairs for lunch, and we're going to have a Q&A, and anyone that says any questions can come in. That's what we did. Every month, downstairs in the lunchroom. Whoever from the company wanted, it was a lot of fun. People came in, asked questions, I tried the best that I could. One time I was sitting there, and a guy showed up by the name of Josh. He was he was a finance intern, brand new, 2 weeks in. Josh was 6'5", 250, cut like that. I'm talking about life and this, he's nodding, smiling, like totally into it too much. Like, yeah, oh, amazing, oh, great, taking notes. I'm like, hey, this guy's freaking me out. Finally, it's over. He comes up and he goes, Charlie, do you mind? Thank you so much. I said, you're welcome. He said, do you mind if I continue coming back to the classes? I said, Josh, of course. He goes, no. He was like, uncomfortable. I didn't want to do this beforehand. He goes, I'm not Jewish. I'm like, I know. He goes, how do you know? I'm like, Josh, you're 6'5". You know what I'm talking about? 250. God doesn't make us that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got really 5'9". Like, wow, you're really tall. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah. He totally can come back. He's like, for real? I'm like, yeah, sure. So he comes back the next week, and we're talking about moments in high school that changed your life, how the impression you have on your kid could change his life. And Josh goes, Charles, you mind if I jump in? I said, yeah, you're 6'5". You want to give a class? Like, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? You can do it on your body. So he gets up and tells a story. This is the best story. He goes, I grew up in Texas. Now, Texas has, what's the number one religion in Texas? Anybody? Number one religion in Texas is not Christianity, it's football. Texas's number one religion is football. I was born 6'5". Because when I was 3 years old, I had my growth spurt, and I was 6'5". Because when you're 6'5" in Texas, he goes, you are the Messiah. Because any high school that gets you is going to win the championship. He goes, when I came into high school, my first week, they had carpet, they had cheerleading squad, they did rose petals, forget about it. He goes, I was a mediocre football player. Like, I was decent at best. And my coach just couldn't get me out, couldn't motivate me. He goes, and then one time, this happened not so long ago, he goes, one time, some guy sent him a clip of a movie. And he saw what some coach did on a football movie, and he said he's going to try it out on me. I go, so what happened? Now, meanwhile, Everyone's like, what happened? So he goes, here's what happened. So I came to practice one day, and as I came to practice, coach goes, Josh. He goes, yeah. He goes, can you give me a death curls when you crawl, but your elbows and your knees can't touch the ground. So you are in pain from the first second on. He goes, yeah. He lines up at the end zone. He goes, how far can you give me? So he goes, I don't know, coach. What do you need? He gets the whole team around. He goes, Josh, can you give me a death curl? He goes, yes, coach. He goes, how far can you kick me? He goes, I'll take you to the 20. He goes, can you get me to the 20? He goes, yes. He goes, will you give me your word, son, that you will get to the 20? He goes, yes, coach, yes. He gets down. He goes, oh, 1 second. He goes, what's up, coach? He goes, Billy. Billy's the shortest kid on the team, but I like the Jewish kid. He goes, come here. He goes, what'd you get on Josh's back? He goes, coach, I get to the 20. I didn't realize I get 20 on the back. He goes, you gave me your words? You can get to the 20. He goes, okay, fine. I get to the 20. Jumps on his back. And he gets down and goes, one more thing. He goes, what else? He says, pull that out of his pocket. It's some movie that I've never seen before. Pull that out of his pocket and he blindfolds him. So he's down on the ground. He was sitting there. It's a Texas day. It's 100 degrees. The whole team's around. Go, Josh. He's got to get to the 20s and where he's going. Go. And he starts climbing. He starts going, death curl, go. He gets to the 10. And the coach goes, good job, Josh, the 5. Good job, Josh, get the 5. He's like, yeah, the 5. I've been going forever. And he just crawling, and he's huffing, and he's puffing, and he's in pain. He's at the 20, and he goes, good job, Josh, at the 10. He's like, you ever heard by the way, when time slows down when you're working out? You ever been on a treadmill, by the way, before, and you're running, and you're like, oh, this has been 45 minutes, we've got like 18 seconds. You ever have that moment where time slows down in space on a treadmill? Not on fast days, by the way. It just slows down, and he's like, I don't know, I've been going, I don't know, and he's going, he's the 30, and he goes, good job, Josh, he gets 15. He goes, coach, I got enough. He goes, you gave me your word, so you'll get to the 20. He goes, I got enough. Meanwhile, it's the 40. He goes, I got enough. He goes, you negotiate with your body for more. You give me 5 more. You give me 5 more. And the team's like, Josh. And he's like, I couldn't feel any part of my body. And he goes, 5, 4, 3, 2. And he collapses. And he rolls over, he said. And he goes, I rolled over and I unhooked my thing and dropped Billy off. And I looked up, I lay there in that grass looking up. And I said to myself, I couldn't even get to the 20. I couldn't even get to the 4 years of being a complete letdown. My coach asked me to the 20. It was harder than I thought. And I'm screaming and crying. And now I couldn't even get to the 20. I am the biggest failure. And the crowd is screaming. And the coach looks up and he goes, Josh. He goes, what are you saying, coach? I'm so sorry. And he gets to 20. And the coach goes, Josh, turn around. You're on the 5th day. He stood up. He goes, the coach says something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. That your problem, Josh, is that you see yourself as belonging on the 20. And so you live on the 20. You come to practice and you practice like a guy who's a mediocre player. He goes, you don't believe that you deserve to be a champion. You don't believe you deserve to bring a title home. So it affects the way you work, it affects the way you practice, it affects the way you play. You think you belong on the 20. But you belong on the 50. And unless you see yourself on the 50, you're never going to go through the pain that's going to get to go from 20 to 50. Great people don't grow up on the 50 of life. Great people say, you think I'm in high school? You think that's all I can do because I'm 8, 10, 12, 13, 15, 18 years old? You have no idea who I am. I belong there. I'm going to be like that. I'm going to make this difference. And the work that goes into becoming great, that's where I belong. That's who I am. They should have studied, I teach entrepreneurship at University. They should have studied on the top entrepreneurs today that are making the most money, all started in high school. Everyone said, why can't I have a company? I'm in high school. But you're a 9th grader, you're a 10th grader, who cares? Why can't I make a difference in this world? Because you're too young. And they go, you don't get me. I don't belong on the 20. I belong on the 50. And I'll work for it. I'm not asking for a handout. But the pain that it takes to go from the 20 to 50 is only going to happen when you see yourself belonging on the 50. Josh said, from that moment, I realized that the reason why I wasn't becoming a champion It wasn't because of what I was given, it was because of my mentality. I never saw myself as that guy. And I switched. I came to practice the next day and we won a championship that year. He played Cornell football while getting a double degree in finance. Total all-star. One conversation. The Jews come out of Israel. And they turn to God and they go, we're scared. And God goes, you cry tears of pain, you'll cry forever. What is God telling the Jewish people? I promise you one thing, that the creator of the universe doesn't need the Jews to kiss up to him. And if he is doing anything, it's in order for them to be great. What is he telling them? So if I did a video on this, but if you look in the Psukim, you will see an amazing thing. They walk out into the following. They saw big giants and big cities. And it was a big deal. They were scared. Then they give it away. V'nihi be'einenu kechagaven. We were, in our eyes, like grasshoppers. V'chein hayu be'eineihem. We felt inadequate, so we must be inadequate. We felt like grasshoppers, so we must be grasshoppers. We were in all our eyes like grasshoppers, so we must have been in their eyes like grasshoppers. And Moshe goes, really? Who told you to say that? Who told you you can't ride a bike before you even try to ride a bike? Who told you you're going to fail math before you even try math? Who told you not to be the best kid because some guy told you younger that you weren't doing as everyone else is doing? Who told you you're not going to be great? That, God says, is the root of destruction. The root of destruction is not me burning your buildings. The root of destruction is you looking at your own problems and saying, I can't. You don't know me, God. I can't. You don't know me. I can't. No, I really can't. I got it. I can't. Your goal in life, no matter where you are, is to be great. This camp stands for greatness. Let me tell you how it works. There's this type of camp, and there's this. Why can't we put it together in one camp? It's never been done before. Why can't we? We can't. Why can't we? Why can't we? We can do things that's never been done before. We can treat people in ways they deserve to be treated, even though in schools they don't get that.
Yeah. We think the way it works is that because we do things because something happened in the world. A long time ago, the building burned down, and I got to fast. That's not how it works. I'm a Jew, right? It's tradition. It's custom. Why? Not sure. That's why. It's not sure. There's nothing that we do. Is that God has this amazing world. And nestled in the physical world where we see it is spirituality. And in that world is some electricity. That if we can tap into that electricity now, we become different people. My son was here again, he was a kid. I'll never forget, his dad can explain to me voltage. How does voltage work? He said, here's how it works. You have an outlet. If you plug your charger into the outlet, that your thing's going to, your iPod's going to turn on. If I go to Yankee Stadium, you get all the lights, and I put it into that same outlet, it's not turning on. Why? There's electricity, but there isn't enough voltage. Voltage is when the voltage is turned on. And the way it works in Jewish history, Jewish calendar, is that every period of time has a certain amount of electricity, spiritual energy, to make us awesome. The goal of Judaism is to be awesome, not because God needs something. God's cool. The beauty about being the creator of the universe is you don't need stuff. You definitely need a bunch of like orthodox robots, like faking it through to make you happy. He's totally cool. He doesn't have a complex. If he's having us do stuff, it's because we're his nation and wants us to tap into an energy. This period of time has amazing energy. The Siva Shalom says that the 3 weeks are holy and the 3 are going. Because the 3 are going, remind you of existence.
A Jew never says, I can't. Because if we said, I can't, when they took my grandparents, they put them to the Holocaust. When we came on the shores of America, we'd say, we're done. Look at this place. We are 2 generations from gas chambers. How in the world, in 2 generations, from literally having some Nazis saying it's all over, How is it possible that we have this nation? We're 12 hours from the Kotel. We are one of 100 camps. Hundreds of schools. How? Because a bunch of Jews got to the shores and said, I'm not saying you can't. And they're like, you can't. They go, why can't you? Tisha B'Av is for the people that say, I can't. And your goal in life, no matter what you do, in school, with your friends, with your Judaism, the greatest challenge you're going to face is a bunch of Jewish kids that look over at a tough religion and go, I can't, I'm out. And then they become ortho robots. You see them in like 12th grade, they're like nothing inside, just robots. Because it's a little hard to get Judaism. I'm out, I can't. We think the way it works is that because we do things, because something happened in the world. A long time ago, the building burned down, and I got a fast. That's not how it works. I'm a Jew, right? It's tradition, it's custom. Why? Not sure, that's wrong. It's not true. There's nothing that we do, is that God has this amazing world. And nestled in the physical world where we see it is spirituality. And in that world is something electricity. That if we can tap into that electricity now, we become different people. My son who's here in Canada, he's a kid. I'll never forget that. Dad, can you explain to me voltage? How does voltage work? I said, here's how it works. You have an outlet. If you plug your charger into the outlet, your things, your iPod's going to turn on. If I go to Yankee Stadium, you get all the lights, and I put it into that same outlet, it's not turning on. Why? There's electricity, but there isn't enough voltage. Voltage is when the voltage is turned on. And the way it works in Jewish history, Jewish calendar, is that every period of time has a certain amount of electricity, spiritual energy, to make us awesome. The goal of Judaism is to be awesome, not because God needs something. God's cool. The beauty about being the creator of the universe is you don't need stuff. You definitely need a bunch of like orthodox robots, like faking it through to make you happy. He's totally cool. He doesn't have a complex. If he's having us do stuff, it's because we're his nation and he wants us to tap into an energy. This period of time has amazing energy. The Siva Shalom says that the 3 weeks are holy and the 3 are going. Because the 3 are going, remind you of existence. A Jew never says, I can't. Because if we said I can't, when they took my grandparents, they put them through the Holocaust. When we came on the shores of America, we'd say, we're done. Look at this place. We are 2 generations from gas chambers. How in the world, in 2 generations, from literally having some Nazi saying it's all over, how is it possible that we have this nation? We're 12 hours from the Kotel. We are one of 100 camps. Hundreds of schools. How? Because a bunch of Jews got to the shores and said, I'm not saying you can't. And they're like, you can't. They go, why can't you? Tisha B'Av is for the people that say, I can't. And your goal in life, no matter what you do, in school, with your friends, with your Judaism, the greatest challenge you're going to face is a bunch of Jewish kids that look over at a tough religion and go, I can't, I'm out. And then they become ortho robots. You see them in like 12th grade, they're like nothing inside, just robots. Because it's a little hard to get Judaism. I'm out.